fellas?
What's up? What is
How
up?
goes it?
How goes it indeed? I just want to say I'm just a massive fan of Richard getting on board with the uniform.
You look good, Richard.
I am too.
I try to rebel, and then Scott doesn't let me rebel, and
Pulled you back in.
he pulls me back in, and then he becomes the rebellion himself.
That's right. I'll be the first to change.
What,
Right.
what do you mean Scott doesn't let you? I don't even understand that comment.
Scott is
Jedi
just
mind
living in my
trick.
head. He's living in my head rent free for far too long in my life, as I told him last week.
So I calls him daddy, you know, so
Yeah, exactly.
I don't do that.
because that would be weird.
I love it.
Man.
Yeah. Well, I think Scott is like I like to call Scott like the sun. Like he's got a gravitational pull to him.
I like that. Wow. Thank you.
And the best part is he doesn't give a shit. And that's
A gravitational pull that you then crash into.
Crash into, yeah. Like 3-Eye Atlas. You know, I'm just sort of spiraling through the universe, pulling things in.
let's be real. Like if you get sucked into the sun, like it's not a good experience.
Oh, it's not good at all.
You're
Actually, you will die.
Yeah.
You
will
often,
burn. will
often get burned. Yeah, exactly.
But the journey there is great, though.
Journey
You
there
get a
is
great
great.
tan. You feel awesome, you know.
You're just not making it out okay.
You just need to know you get closer and closer to the sun, i.e., the
Yeah.
Scott, and then you just got to know when to put on the brakes and turn around.
Yeah. Women have all of my girlfriends and wives have figured that out.
Oh,
Not my friends are slower to figure it out. Though.
Because your friends are dumber.
yeah.
My
Some
friends are dumber. That's probably
some
true.
of us are glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's
For
probably
sure.
True. Hey, when was the last time anybody had a LinkedIn post that got more than 1,000 impressions? By the way,
Oh, I think I hit 1,100 on a post today.
nice work, Neil. 1100.
Thank you. I was very proud of myself, actually.
Good job. Good
You know
job.
what? I have the ultimate trump card. I got a newborn. So
Oh, you're
That-
killing it right
yeah.
now.
that bad boy, I'm milking it.
Yeah, you should.
Pun intended.
He's good for business. I bet.
Oh yeah.
I just bring him on a call. It's like, you're
Instant
you know,
rapport.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Before you talk about not moving forward, let me just introduce you to my newborn who I now need to feed. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I just keep him strapped to your chest at all times.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a rapport builder.
Permanent
Yeah.
baby Bjorn is part of your
That's
uniform now.
Yeah.
You should actually, I don't know if your baby's awake or not, and I know you probably don't want to grab it, but you should grab it, man. I'd love to see your baby once we're talking here.
Let me-
But Justin, just really quick here, I know we've got some people listening in. Do we want to? Are people allowed to ask questions in the chat there?
Yeah. Throw
What are
questions
the
in the
rules?
chat. Yeah. Throw questions in the chat. This is, we're going to talk about a couple topics, that are top of mind. People have Q&A, that they have answering, people's most pressing questions. The whole goal of this was to just have an unfiltered, unpolished, raw conversation in a way that can serve people. And, we're obviously working together on a pretty big project with Midnight to Millions. And we've been, working together for months now. And one of the things that I love about you guys is, we don't bullshit, right? We can get into it, give people the non-PC answer, right? The answer that people need to see or need to hear.
Love it.
And, figured want to put this together in a way that, can help some people in a way that may not get in their day-to-day, whether it's a rep, whether it's a leader, whether it's a founder, whether it's a career question, whether it's a, leadership question around building a culture, whether it's a scaling question.
I love it.
We all have some great backgrounds around that and can help in different areas. So, that's what this is about. But then also it's just an opportunity for us to chop it up and shoot the shit and talk about, Marcus's beautiful, glasses to prevent him.
You like that? You like that?
I do like, and I see on the chat some. I don't know everyone that's on the LinkedIn Live, but a couple people just spent the week with John DeVoe at Pavilion GTM conference. Hey, John, Partha on there. How you doing, buddy? Shabs, good to see you on the live chat, and lots of other people too that some of you might know. But either way, welcome everyone.
So, question for you all. This was a debate topic we had in our text message, so I think it'd be good to bring
I think
this
it's a
up.
good place. I think it's a good
People
place to
people
start.
should they
Yeah.
would die if
Whoa.
they saw this text thread.
Pick,
by the way.
Yeah.
pick carefully, Justin, what you
Yeah.
pull
So-
that text thread.
So we're gonna talk about one that might actually be helpful for people. But it's how much did you follow up? I would say I got a little triggered by seeing a post on LinkedIn, about someone saying, you should only follow up a couple times. I have strong thoughts around that, but let's toss it up. Like, what do you guys think? Like, are we reaching out a couple times? Buy or die. Where do you guys fall?
I'm super happy to answer this one. I try to prevent it as much as possible. So before assuming I've had a conversation with someone, I will literally say, "Hey, Scott, hey, I know you got to take this back to your team. Can we go ahead and put something on your calendar for next week? Because it's a whole lot easier to reschedule something and schedule something." And people will often take that meeting. On the chance that they don't, I'll then say, "Well, great. If I don't hear from you by Friday, can I email you? Or is this really, don't call us, we'll call you?" So based on that, it tries to help prevent the ability of someone ghosting me. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work. However, I don't have to worry about how much I'm following up with them too much. So I prevent that in the first piece. Then I'll go the rule of three, right? I'll go after them about 3, maybe 4 times. And that 4th time is, last attempt. I also have another attempt in there that just says, "Are you okay? Haven't heard from you. Is everything going all right?" Like, I don't even ask about business. Subject lines, "Are you okay?" And that works really well. So, I'll go about 3 or 4 times, but I think I'm also in a different scenario than traditional salespeople, maybe, right? Like, the people, I think we all might be, because the people we talk to are genuinely interested. Like, there's a little bit more intent to talk to us versus someone who started to take a cold call or something like that. So anyway, I'll shut up. And as I said earlier, I'll let Scott go ahead and take the rebellious response. Over to you, Scott Leese, back in the studio.
I'll let Neil was chomping at the bit. Go ahead, Neil.
Well, I first want to say that my own partner and son, Hunter Weitzman, is on the live chat telling me that of the 5 of us, Scott is his favorite, not me. So,
I love Hunter already.
So that feels great. Just for
Big fan of Hunter.
He hasn't met Justin or myself yet, so
That's
maybe
true.
not Richard. So I don't know. I'm just saying.
That's true. It's a low bar with Scott and I. You're right. On to the topic. I love this topic of being ghosted, and I won't go too deep here to let everyone else have a chance too. But I actually think talking about how you send a message or at what point you stop regarding ghosting is actually the wrong discussion. It's what do you do up front to avoid it happening in the first place? And while, of course, there's nothing that makes it perfect to 100% avoid it from happening, I think there's lots of things you can do to decrease the chance of it significantly by doing what I'd call proper expectation setting, which, there's a whole thing about that we can talk about. But the short of it is, how do you have an honest and blunt and direct conversation during the sales process that actually gets to, is this something we're going to go forward with or not, and actually talks about communication. I actually think you should come right out and say something like, "Hey, Marcus, inevitably we're going to get busy. You might get really busy here. If I send a note and you don't reply to me, and because you get busy, what is the best form of communication to have a chance to reach you? Do you prefer email or text, et cetera, et cetera?" And you see where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
It's being really direct and honest about that. And whether or not it's going to be perfect, the fact that I even address it will significantly reduce the chance of Marcus ever ghosting me. Not perfect, but significantly reduces it.
Just show up at my house,
Yeah.
with coffee and food,
Exactly.
and I'll let you in.
Well, what if it's cold? Like, you haven't had the meeting with them and you're trying to get that initial meeting? Because it's one thing, we had the discovery, had it. It's like, hey, what's the follow-up cadence? But if you're trying to break in, right? How hard are you working an account? Or that's the real question here.
Totally fair. Totally fair. I'll let someone else jump in on that one.
So I read a study a while back. I think it goes by Trust Radius, and I think it says something along the line. I could be butchering, but I think it was like the average decision maker takes like 10.2 touches across multiple channels just to book that meeting. And I thought what was really interesting is like, obviously, if it's completely cold outreach, you reach out 4 times, it's called like via email. You can't just give up, right? I think that was kind of the essence of it. We were kind of messaging about back and forth, over the weekend. But I think if we take a step back, it's like I'll say there's nothing wrong with following up if it's done well. If it's designed to be high value, relevant to that specific person, that could be of value to them. And I'm not saying the value is, hey, book a call with me so I can sell you something. Is it a high value nurture piece, an article, a webinar, or something useful that's actually going to help them in their day job, right? And if you have that type of mindset and you believe it's a really good prospect, in my opinion, you can follow up as many times as you'd like, as long as it makes sense and you exercise that emotional intelligence. I think the mistake a lot of reps make is they only follow up a couple of times and they basically move on, or they only do one channel, not multi-channel, or they just enter into a blind marketing cadence or sequence that just kind of hammers them over time to kind of wear them down, which just does not work in today's time.
I think that's especially true if you are more B2B as opposed to B2C. The tolerance that people have in B2B for repeated messages is much smaller. I don't know the right analogy. It's just less tolerance for it. And the bigger the deal size, the more complex, the bigger the buyer that you're talking to. You're talking to I don't know, not even a Fortune 500, but just like a large Series D size kind of tech company, and you're sending them 10.2 messages. That's way overkill, unless those 10 messages are spread out over the course of like a year or something like that. So I think a lot depends on what time frame we're talking about, and I think some terrible salespeople read a study like that, Marcus, hear 10.2, and they're like, I just got to send 10 or 11 messages.
Let's compress it to like one day,
and then I'll get there, right? And even in, to me, 10, 11 messages in a span of 20 or 30 days is way too much. Like, you've kind of rubbed me the wrong way at that point in time, and I don't want anything to do with you. So that was my main kind of thing that I was thinking about over the weekend in our text thread was it B2C or is it B2B? How big is the deal size? How complex is this thing? What time frame are you talking about? And I think it's just really important to consider that stuff and be aware, rather than just blindly reading numbers and disregarding the rest of the context.
Yeah. And just we haven't talked a lot about, and I'm not sure if we need to, but because this should be commonplace or known, we haven't talked about what these messages say.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't care if it's 2 of them or 20 of them. That's what we're debating now. But it's none of them should be wasted time and energy that are like following up, checking in, and we all should know that years ago by now. These should be messages. I don't care if you send 2 or 10 that are helpful, kind, adding value, and just touching base without saying the word touching base, but in a way that is helpful to you. So that if Marcus opens my message, he either learns something, I've done him a favor, he gets something, and whether or not he buys a product or service from me, he is grateful that hopefully that he knows me and we now have a relationship, and I do something with that in mind.
I think there's other context too that we didn't mention to this, which is, and we covered both, which is if I've had a conversation with somebody, what's my approach, and cold calling is 10.2 touches. So I think I'm hoping everybody here is intelligent enough to go, oh yeah, they're talking about both scenarios, but I don't know that I would go to 10.2 touches if I'd had a real conversation with someone and was trying to get them back on the phone or back on the hook. I'd probably bail a lot sooner. Like I did a post the other day that I think Scott taught this to me like a long time ago, which was, nothing will exhaust your spirit and will more than chasing babies. And it's the greatest thing ever. Like there are several little snippets I have that have lasted me a long time. And that is one that I just wholeheartedly agree with. Like because I live it. I think we've all lived it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I got to figure out what's my distance, right? You know, my distance of that might be 4 or 5 messages. Scott might be 2, right? But there's got to be a place where we as a human realize that time is now better spent going after someone new who does want to talk to us versus someone who's avoiding us.
I have thoughts. I will never apologize for following up my motherfucking ass off with someone that I know I can help. Like, if I know I can help you, I'll never apologize if I have to frustrate you in the process. Now, but the key is I have to know I can help you. So I have to do my research. Relevant messaging, let's just like call that as like table stakes. Right? I'm not sending like mass emails. I'm also reaching out through multi-channel. Where I got triggered was, you know, it was a post that said like you send like a couple emails and that's it. Right? It's like, wait, so I'm not going to call this person. I'm not going to try to message them on LinkedIn. I'm not going to try to do any direct mail. Right? And I think, Scott, you mentioned this. Hey, it's dangerous when people say 10.2, I'm going to do that no matter what. Well, what triggered me about that post is like some rep who may only have 50 accounts to work is going to say, oh, so-and-so said I should only email them 3 or 4 times and then give up for 3 to 4 months, then come back to them. Where if I only have 50 accounts, I'm going to burn that shit down. Right? And because my job is to exhaust all potential, try to help people. Does it ruffle some feathers? For sure. But that's also why it's called sales and not order taking.
But you can't say something like that without and only say the word email, right? Because you're saying you're going to burn that shit down, which by the way is scaring the shit out of me. But you're saying that, and you're saying email.
Yeah.
You're not, because I know you, Justin, and you're like a top 1% salesperson.
But you've never been a prospect of mine. If you were a prospect of mine, I'd show up in your fucking lobby if I had to get you to do something. Like, you do what you have to do.
Fair, but that's the whole point. We're not. We started this talking about email, but none of us are really have the thought of this is just email. You're doing multi-channel. You're trying to meet them where they are. You know, if they go to an event, you're going to the event, and you're going to try to have a human conversation. Right? Email is one of 10, different things you might do to try to engage in a discussion. And so it's really, quite frankly, it's wrong for us to have a conversation like this and only say the word email, because that's not the right thing to be thinking about.
Yeah, I think it's just dangerous advice. Like I think the 10.2, it's like, hey, it's an average. It's a good average, right? But what's the context? Hey, if I have 10 accounts and that's all I have to work, there's going to be 50 touches. It's however many touches is required to break in is what I'm going to do. And that's where I got frustrated when I saw that. Number one, it was like the lack of touches. Number two, it was just email. And that's why, we were texting about it. I'm like, hell no. And
I don't even remember the LinkedIn post. We should pull it up on screen here and go and troll it for a bit and have some fun.
I think we should change topics. I think we've talked about this topic. Let's go on to the next topic.
I mean, what are you guys seeing in terms of the companies? Because obviously things like SalesLoft laid off a bunch of their SDRs, bunch of news about that. AI SDRs are over there. Like, what are you guys thinking on this? I'm, going super deep, trying to learn as much as I can right now. Where are you guys falling in the camp?
I think people are using AI as an excuse to lay people off. I don't think that AI is replacing the SDRs at this stage. Everybody's over indexing on it. As I think we all know, AI is there to assist with the workflow and make certain things faster and easier. So theoretically, could an SDR have a greater capacity of accounts to go after? That's possible, but not entirely, because even if you have AI doing stuff, we're still at that stage, at least in my opinion, where the human needs to check the message before it goes. Like, there's got to make sure that there's no error in there. Because why? Because the CRM data is still very dirty, right? That's why. So I think that's a big piece. I think people are over indexing on what it's capable of at this point in terms of replacing a human being, short of a B2C cycle, right? Like I don't need to call Comcast and talk to a human anymore if my cable goes out, right? I can go in, I can get on the app, I can have it reset, I can do all those things. And I can ask it questions. And then all of a sudden, if I get to a place where I need to talk to someone, they'll prompt it. But we're being conditioned for this approach. We're just not there yet in the B2B world, particularly in the outbound motion. I also think people are having a hard time just with outbound and sales right now in general. And so that's also a big reason. It's not the AI. It's just that the capacity of messages to send has increased, which means your inbox's capacity is blown up. And so even if you have the best message available, you're still just not getting read. So.
Yeah, so I've toyed around building some of my own AI agents, right? And like they for sure help, but they require a lot of oversight. And I thought maybe I just wasn't like, I don't know it well enough, right? But I've read a few really good write-ups and seen a couple good things from Jason Lemkin. A lot of people know Jason Lemkin, he runs SaaStr. And I think one of his most recent articles or long lives was like I think they have like 11 or 12 agents now across different functions they built out. And he spent a lot of time building and training all these agents. But he's like, it requires daily oversight. Like still to this point, even though they have spent hundreds of hours training these AI agents, it's requires into every single day. So it's not as simple as, hey, as the way it's marketed, which is, hey, you get this agent, you train a little bit, and you can basically like free up all its time. It's like, yeah, you put it in place, but you're still going to oversee it, right? And just like Richard said, we're seeing across the board, it's like those layoffs that are happening. I mean, they're kind of using it as like a reason, but reality, a lot of companies do layoffs like consistently. That's like it's not always announced, but it already happens already. This becomes an easy excuse to stay.
And it's happened. Look, it's September 29th right now. Guess what's happening in 3 days? Right? End of the quarter. Yep. Sharpen it up before the end of the year. Quarterly reviews quarterly annual reports are coming out.
100%.
And this will be the excuse you hear.
I've done a 180 on this because before I was like, AI is the devil, and I do agree it creates a lot of excuses.
AI is the devil.
But when I think about a couple weeks ago, I bought a car and traded in my old one without all of my mobile app. Didn't go into a dealership, didn't do anything. And technology has made it easier and easier to not talk to humans in order to transact. So I think
that's B2C though.
True, but think about it.
Still a high ticket purchase though, right?
Yeah, I mean it's I wasn't buying. Yeah, this was not a light purchase, that I made through it. And when I think about like AI, I definitely think it's AI augmented SDRs for sure today. But ChatGPT is replacing Google as like the search engine. And we've all seen the studies of like people are more educated than ever before, before they really engage and evaluate. And that's only getting put into hyperdrive with AI now. At least in our industry. I mean, I think the exception could be if you sell to a laggard, that's a very slow in like tech adoption. But I think AI is for sure going to be eventually replacing a massive aspect of the role. And instead of, right now it's like helping an individual SDR be more productive. I could see it being where it's almost like every SDR is a team of AI agents leader. And my role as the SDR is to make sure these SDR agents are effectively performing at a high level. You know what I mean?
We have some, if it's okay, Justin, I know you're kind of our leader here today. There's some great questions in the chat. If I can read one out.
Yeah, go for it.
There's a few great ones I'd love to get to. I don't know if we'll have time. Chai or Chi, I'm sorry if I'm not sure the right way to pronounce your name, asked, what are your thoughts with Google call screening, iOS 26 call screening, as per the perspective of SDR cold calling? And someone gave, Robert gave, I'll just read this out really quick and then we can comment on it. Robert, in response, said his expectation is that he won't run into any problems with this call screener, as the SDRs are going to continue to reach out regardless. And the call screen feature isn't as popular with the quote unquote decision making class. So maybe that's a great topic just for us to provide a point of view on.
I think the answer is obviously that it will continue to slowly make cold calling harder and more difficult and more complicated. And you're going to have to lean on additional outbound motions to find ways to succeed. Because email and the telephone are getting harder. So you've got to find maybe older school ways to get in front of people face to face, events and networking and things like this, direct mail, personalized direct mail, gifting, content creation, all of this stuff that everybody knows and kind of does, but maybe dabbles in a little bit rather than goes all in. You're going to have to try to be more well-versed in a lot of different types of motions. That's the ultimate net effect of the iOS thing and the direction that all this stuff is kind of headed.
I'll just say 2 seconds on that. I agree. I love when I can disagree with Scott, but in this case, I agree with Scott. We could talk about what is the immediate impact in the short term, but I think the bigger point, Scott, that you're making is this is just another thing that's making it a little bit harder and moving in the direction that I know you and I agree. We've talked about this, is that cold calling in this scenario or example is if we think, we both have teenage kids, our kids are not going to be picking up the phone in 8 years when they're the decision makers. And so we better be thinking about all the things you said yesterday in order to build a proper GTM motion, because this is just another speed bump along the way that makes it even harder to be effective with these things. So I don't know, Marcus and Richard, what do you guys think? And Justin?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, even before this, right? A lot of people I know now, our phones are on do not disturb at all times. Justin tried to call me twice last week, right? Like it didn't even ring.
You guys never return my fucking call when I
and when I see Richard, it's a spam risk.
I'm do not disturb all day long.
You are, Justin. Yes. I just call and leave really long messages just to annoy him. I know he never listens to him. But
Richard, do not disturb only button.
That's it. So we already know that's going to be a challenge, right? I think at the end of the day, I think as the individual by yourself, you have to develop all those skills that Scott talked a lot about. I think if you're a leader, is how can you set your team up for success? How can you create the environment for them so they're doing some of these things? So for instance, one of our clients, they go to a lot of events. So they go to a lot of events and they generate those leads and they follow up on those leads because they actually do a good job at the events. So they'll speak at the events, they'll have their leaders speak at the events. So that generates a lot of inbound lead interest that the SDRs can then follow up on. It's got a very high booking rate. So when you can kind of combine multiple things, like Scott mentioned, and you also do calling, it helps ease some of that pain. But if you're just scraping lists and making calls, and that's the only thing you do, making 1,000 calls a day, it can be very, very tough. Even with some of the new tech out there where I see it's like, hey, a guaranteed 20% connect rate. Well, for now, but we'll see what happens over time because it'll get harder over time.
So we tested when I was at my last company. We tested one of the hyperdialers, and their whole pitch was, we guarantee 10x conversations, right? And our booking rate plummeted. And they're like, well, we're giving you more conversations, so we're delivering. And I said, look, here's the reality. You're dialing 10 numbers at once, and when someone answers, there's a second and a half delay. It's like whenever you answer that telemarketer call, you're like, hello? Okay, telemarketer, hang up, right? Regardless if it is or not. And that was killing our results. So it's now, if it gets to the point where it's real time, which will happen eventually, obviously that can help, but it's a challenge.
All right, next topic. Go on to the next one. All right. got to keep this thing moving. Otherwise, we'll just sit here and repeat each other.
Let's get into some arguments. We have another question. What are Brandon saying? What are the fastest ways to find a customer's pain or problem? For context, so this could be a good example. Brandon selling printing service, which is usually a commodity, and customers often go right to what is the price. So,
Brandon, do you work for Dunder Mifflin?
Have you guys watched The Paper? Anyone started to watch that show?
Yes. It's good.
It's actually better than I thought.
Spin-off of it? Is that what that
It's
is?
a spin-off of it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's better than I thought it was going to be.
Never heard of it.
It's because you're in Canada.
It's not available in Canada yet.
Yeah.
Probably true, actually.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone have thoughts on Brandon's wonderfully good question? What are some of the fastest ways to find a customer pain or problem? And the context for him is it's a commodity type of printing service.
I mean, for me, it just comes out like a level of research and preparation so you can come up with a point of view. Instead of saying, help me understand your top priorities, say something like, every time I talk to someone in your position in 2025, they care about X, Y, and Z. And typically because of that, they're doing A, B, and C. Which one of those best applies to you and your situation, if at all?
Well, I think it depends. Context matters too in terms of this, in relation to whether it's a cold call versus a scheduled meeting, right? If it's a scheduled meeting, I'm very upfront about just out of curiosity, what made you want to talk to us today? What's happening over there? And I always go with a very open-ended question around it, and I always go with what's happening over there, because I want them to think like in a use case or case study scenario. I want them to tell me that here is the piece, not just sort of, why did you want to talk to us? Because that's a very different question. I want to know what's happening that makes you want to talk to us. And you immediately open into getting into real discovery when you phrase it that way.
Yeah. And I would, sorry, Scott, go ahead. I'll go after you.
Well, at the risk of sounding super basic, the answer is you have to ask them. To me, I don't really assume anything here. And I'm trying to find some sort of emotional trigger. That's the key, I think, to get away from this commoditized world. When is the last time the print job missed a deadline or showed up damaged? How many colors got like mismatched or whatever, and how long did it take to fix, and how much grief did you specifically get? How many rounds of edits are required? Like, there's a million different questions, I think, that you can try to come up with that get it off of this commoditized thing. How often does it happen? How fast are they in fixing the problem if it does happen? Damn, that kind of sucks. Like, would you want that fixed? These are the kinds of things that you're trying to get somebody to open up and admit, right? And from there, you can try to take some of those pain points, if you will, and find a way to dig in a little bit on some value around that. Like, I don't know, a faster turnaround time from an error means more of this. Fewer reprints means less of this. Fewer times your ass is on the line for a mistake is less stress, which means you might get, have better productivity or whatever. These are like emotional kind of value points that I think are super important in a commoditized world. And then find urgency points about it. Is there a promotion that person's up for soon? If an error happened, 2 weeks before a big thing, would you even be able to get that stuff fixed, or are you totally screwed? Right? Again, it just comes down to just asking question after question after question to me, rather than assuming anything or even trying to talk about what we're so good at. So that's where I would start if I'm Brandon.
All right. Next question.
Sorry, I just one quick comment on that.
Real quick, close it out.
Really quick. The fact that, Brandon, you said this is a commodity, I wouldn't shy away from that and try to go too deep on all these different things that maybe we think we're unique versus our competitors. But if it's a commodity and they're all essentially the same, and it is reality, it is a price discussion and nothing else, and I'm being very dramatic there, then I wouldn't shy away from it. I would be honest about that. I would even say things like, hey, I know this is a commodity to you. I know you have 5 choices. Let's have a discussion about why, what the problem is and why we're talking, like Richard said. But I wouldn't try to pretend it's not a commodity when it is.
All right. Next question. Build remote or in person for sales teams. Ooh, you got one.
What am I selling? And who am I selling it to?
Enterprise software.
Is my company just started, or have I been around for 10 years?
All right, let me go some more guys. You're
Just
at 10.
answer the fucking question.
You're at 10.
Like, stop doing discovery on the question.
Yeah.
Well, it matters.
Just come on.
It matters.
10 million in revenue. You just got brought in as the VP of sales. Average deal size 100K. Go.
Where do you live? Where's the headquarters? That's important.
Oh my God.
Because think about the talent you get, right? Being in
It
Portland,
matters,
Oregon.
Richard. You want to build a sales office in Columbus, Ohio?
Right.
Portland, Oregon?
Right.
Yeah, Richard would just say yes or no without any context.
Richard lives in San Francisco, the Bay Area. Insane.
Okay,
Richard, do some discovery, man.
Yeah.
let's do
No, I'll answer.
Why don't you all assume best
It's
case
remote.
scenario?
Yeah.
It's
Assume
remote.
best case
remote.
scenario. It's
Fine, it's
right.
remote.
Yeah.
The answer is it's remote. If you're selling $100,000 deals and you're hiring enterprise salespeople from anywhere in the world, the answer is remote. Because if it's best case scenario, I'm hiring only the best of the best, people that I've worked with before who are known entities. The market is ready for me. That's easy. As soon as you say best of the best, why would I spend money on an office?
Yeah.
All right, let's change this to 25K deal size.
That's different now. Now let's have Richard answer.
All right. 20 over this.
You want me to
OTs,
so in-house or work from home?
OTs.
First of all,
let's say OTs
there's a couple
150.
things. So one, I happen to like in office, right? I think there is value there. I don't expect everybody to like that. So my expectation is, yeah, I'm probably going to eliminate a lot of people, right? That's fine. But I'm of the ones that I want and the ones who want to be in an office and I'm in the right location to pull from that place, then I'm fine with building it there. Because I also think too that there is this part, and it's not about the cohesion you ever hear everybody in sales. Salespeople need, if I'm building from scratch and they need to hear more stories and hear more things, I want them around in that old school bullpen for something like that. To Scott's point of 100K, where it's probably a field sales role anyway, right? I don't need them in the office, right? But if I'm building from scratch and I've got to get them up to speed as fast as possible. And there's a lot more that can be done that way. I know a lot of people don't like that, and that's fine. But there's a lot of people who like going to an office. Everybody assumes nobody wants to go to the office. Well, there's a lot who don't, and there's a lot who don't mind.
If
If I'm in New York City, do you think I really want to live in my apartment working from home with 2 roommates? No, I want to go to an office.
Yeah, I think again, we're asking questions about the context, and if we change them, I think for me it changes the answer a little bit. I generally agree. Well, I agree with Scott, and I agree with Richard.
Pick one, Neil. Quit being Switzerland.
I can't. I
or
can't.
Canadian.
Yeah, exactly. Let's
The
not get into
51st
that.
state.
Yeah, let's not get into that. But I see the benefit of in office. I grew up in office. I see tons of benefit there. If I'm building a BDR team, I want them in office. If we're talking though, like I think we are, the best enterprise salespeople, whether it's 25 grand ACV or 100 grand ACV, we said that we're the best and experienced. While I see the benefit that Richard is saying, and I will never disagree with there is benefit, I think there's always pros and cons, and I'm going to err on the side of giving them the freedom and trying to find the best damn talent I can anywhere across the country without worrying about that. But if it is a more junior team that I'm building, I want to err on the side of getting them together and learning by osmosis and all the different things that happens in office.
Commercial below, in person, enterprise, you can do well. Remote. All right. Shadab. Sorry, I may have butchered your name.
Amir's laughing at you, Richard. He said LMAO, and I think he means you.
Real quick.
That's quite all right.
What signals would you guys suggest we track? Question from Shadab. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. What signal would you guys use to track whether or not to know when a market is saturated or ripe for disruption?
What signals when a market is saturated? A market.
I'm assuming, let's put this in the context. Let's say I'm evaluating joining a company, to put a wrapper around this.
Okay.
I think you're looking at the data from the existing team in terms of performance, quota attainment, maybe a continuous sort of pipeline to target ratio, sales cycle length, average contract value, tenure of rep, number of accounts, total number of addressable accounts, total number of accounts that you'll be on the receiving end of. Is this a new territory that you're stepping into that's never been farmed before, or are you taking over for somebody else? These are all signals, I guess, in the verbiage that you're using. All of those things can tell me, oh, this has got good potential here, or they could tell me this is a nightmare and I got no chance. So those are a few questions that somebody could ask if they're evaluating whether the role is going to be a good one or not.
I think the other piece as well is saturate is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, I mean, some people think, I think the example of, I can't remember who it was, who had I think it was Brandon, who had the commoditized product, very saturated market, tons of competitors, very little differentiation, low margins, but there's a high need for it, right? So the people are willing to pay for that. So that means potentially you can still enter that market, right? So I think you have to find a balance where, yeah, maybe it's saturated, but there's also a big market for that versus it looks like, oh, here's a whole blue ocean potentially. Yeah, that could be amazing, but is a market ready for that? I mean, look at AI, say 15 years ago. AI's been around for a lot longer than people think.
Yeah.
People weren't ready for that, but now they are. And now we have chosen our companies because the market is ready for that.
Yeah. Real quick, I'd throw this in the chat. Do you guys have hard stops? I know Scott does.
I do. I'll take off right now. Thanks everybody for joining. Good chat, guys.
All right. Peace, Scott.
Yeah, I got to go in a couple minutes, but we should probably just likely end on time for the audience potentially, but obviously
the audience can just put X on the browser. I don't think we're holding any hostage here.
That's true. That's true.
But for the folks that are around here, just a quick call out. Our plan is to be doing this on Mondays, just shooting the breeze, talking through different topics. So if we didn't get to your question today, or you're watching this after this was live, come next week, and we're gonna do this again. So, but jumping back into the question around signals, I would say, like you said, Marcus, like it's not a bad thing if it's saturated, because it comes down to leadership execution. If I'm a CRM company, right, think about a market that is extremely saturated, but it still doesn't mean if I'm an individual contributor, I can't thrive in that market. If I'm a founder, I can even thrive in that market. Am I going to be the next Salesforce? That's going to be unlikely, but I could still set myself up for a nice exit. I could still build, really good business in a unknown market. So I think it also depends on, who my role is and also what my goals are. If my goal is to build the next, $1 trillion company, you probably need to completely disrupt something. So versus if I'm just trying to join a company that let's say I'm newer to my sales career and I want to build a good foundation and learn, then I probably want to join a more boring, unsexy company that's got a really good sales training and enablement structure, because that's going to serve me better long term. So I think it depends on the goals.
That's it.
I love it. And just as a reminder, I think Justin, if I'm not mistaken, Justin, your QR code on the screen is the link that goes to our Midnight to Millions, correct?
Yep. Yep.
And then Richard and I had some fun putting our own links in the chat as well. But there's lots of ways to sign up. So if anyone wants to hear on November 6th and 7th, as Justin said, we're going to be doing this LinkedIn Live for a few times between now and then and have some fun and meet some of you and have some discussions. But the big event is November 6th and 7th, and you can scan the QR code you see on the screen and hear from 24 different amazing experts. And if you scan that link, you'll see the website and all the different people and experts that we've got. And we're just honored to have brought it together and put it on with all these amazing people and a lot of you that'll join us. So awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
See you all next week. Thanks
Cool.
for being on.
All right, folks.
Thanks
Thanks
everybody.
for joining us. Peace out.
Thanks for putting this together, Justin.
Sure.